or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a little bit of a look at a brand new Raichu, which looks very, very nice indeed. Now, our translation here does come from the lovely Antoine Boulet, and if we start off having a little bit of a look at the basics here, it's a Raichu, it's largely what we expect. We've got ourselves 130 HP, which is about right for a stage 1. It's on the 130 end, so remember if it's on the bench and your opponent attacks with something like a Rapid Strike Urshifu, you will actually survive. Having 130 is way better than having 120. Retreat cost of 2 does give Air Balloon, but it's kind of high. We've seen Raichu in the past with free retreats. Seeing one with a retreat cost of 2 is, well, it doesn't fill me with joy, ladies and gentlemen, I think is probably a fair way to put it. We've then got a weakness to fighting, which is honestly not ideal, because there's plenty of good fighting stuff out there, and people are going to be trying to hit Crobat for weakness and things of that nature. So that's not ideal. And being a lightning Pokemon is honestly past its prime. It's not like it used to be. You're still hitting weakness on stuff like Cramorant and Inteleon, which is nice. But it's not like it was. I mean, like it still is, but by the time this comes out, the rotation will have happened and we'll have lost a lot of our lightning friends. But it doesn't really matter, because the first attack here is the one we're worried about, and this one is good. One single lightning energy. This attack does 50 damage to each Pokemon V and Pokemon GX in play, both yours and your opponent's, for one lightning energy. That's good. That's really good. That can spread an awful lot of damage around awfully quickly. And the thing is here, we're talking about a single energy stage 1 Pokemon. So in terms of getting it rolling and investment and all of that, it's minimal. This is a very, very easy Pokemon to actually get going, to get enough resources out and all of that. This is a huge, huge advantage. You can drop this pretty easily. I mean, sure, you got to drop a Pikachu and evolve it, but actually, it doesn't really matter that much, because if you drop a couple of Pikachu, you're going to get a Raichu out next turn. And sure, there are some decks that are going to be able to go, well, I'm not falling for that. Fine. But the thing is, there are going to be plenty of decks that can't. I mean, take something like, and I know it's an example we use a lot, but it's a good one, take an Eternatus deck. They have got to play a bunch of Eternatus. They have got to play a bunch of Crobat. The deck doesn't really work without it. And I know everyone wants to say it's not going to survive the next set or whatever, but it keeps crushing in Japan, so even though there are a bunch of counters out to it, it's still doing amazingly. So there, you are going to hit all of those Pokemon. But of course, at this stage, we need to point out, you're not going to be hitting for 50, you're going to be hitting for 80. If ever there was a Pokemon that really wanted to use Telescopic Sight, well, to be fair, there are a bunch, including the aforementioned Cramorant, but this is a good one. Now you're hitting 80 to each Pokemon GX and EX. And as a fun little side note, even though this attack does hurt your own Pokemon, Telescopic Sight doesn't. So you would be hitting 50 to your opponent's active, 80 to any of their benched, and 50 to all of yours. Cool. Obviously here, Raichu is not going to work in a deck where you're playing a bunch of GXs and Vs. It's just not going to work. You're going to be hurting your own Pokemon too much. Now, maybe you get some kind of outrage Pokemon going. Something like a Reshiram and Charizard, for instance, that has a nice outrage attack. That would work. I mean, again, GX and all are rotating, but it's just an example. But outside of some kind of outrager, you aren't going to want to use this in a non-single prize deck. But this is exactly the kind of card that you play in a single prize deck to punish your opponent for benching these Pokemon. It's just a shame it's 80. Because if this was 90 with Telescopic Sight, then all of a sudden that's a 2-hit KO on a Crobat. That's a 2-hit KO on a Kricketune, except it is a 2-hit KO on all of their Crobat and Kricketune and any other 180 or less HP 2-prize Pokemon at the same time. And that is huge. But we can bridge the gap. Galarian Zigzagoon, I don't mind, But the problem is it's 1 damage counter. And yeah, sure, you can use Scoop Up Net to reuse it, but you're still talking 1 damage counter here. And it's not quite so good. It's a bit of an issue, if I'm honest with you. Because if you need to drop, say, 2 damage counters, well, that's a Galarian Zigzagoon and a Scoop Up Net in addition to your 2-turn KO. It's too awkward. But there is another Pokemon coming which does form a rather wonderful combo with this, and it is the Rapid Strike Inteleon. Annoyingly, the VMAX, the new one, does actually form a really nice combo as well, but unfortunately, because it is a VMAX, you'll be damaging it as well. Maybe there's some kind of combo here with Cheryl to heal it, but it's too awkward, honestly. It's got an ability whereby once during your turn, you can discard a water energy from your hand and do 2 damage or drop 2 damage counters on 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, which is brilliant, but it's a little bit awkward. It needs to discard water energy when Raichu uses lightning and all of that. But the other Inteleon, I love. Once during your turn, you may place 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. It's Decidueye GX. The thing is, as much as it's a stage 2, we've also got Mustard. And Mustard, if it is the only card in your hand, lets you play a Rapid Strike Pokemon from your discard onto your bench and draw 5 cards. So you don't actually have to evolve up normally here. You can build a deck which aims to use Mustard nice and quickly. You can use Mustard to get your Inteleon out. And now you really are rolling. Because now it is essentially 80 to all of your opponent's GXs and Vs, but actually 100 to one of them. Which means something like a Crobat, in 2 turns you can KO 2 Crobats, while spreading damage to everything else. And that's awesome here. And that's assuming 1 Inteleon. Because if you can get multiple Inteleon out, then you can be doing this multiple times, and it really does build up super nicely from there. This is a great attack. The other thing that really helps out this attack here is a lack of Mew. We're going to hit rotation fairly soon, and Mew is going to rotate out. And I've had a bunch of people tell me, well, obviously Pokemon are going to print a replacement. Well, no, honestly. It's not obvious that they're going to print a replacement. And in fact, if you look at the amount of spreading Pokemon we've seen over the last few sets, this is just one example, a Kyogre Amazing Rare would be another one, there are a bunch. Then actually, it looks like Pokemon kind of want us to play spread decks right now, so they aren't going to be printing a Mew replacement. That is completely and utterly unconfirmed. That is just a theory of mine, and I know I'm not the only one that's got that theory. We'll have to wait and see, but it does seem to check out. So my point here is, with no Mew to protect your bench, your opponent is going to have a much more difficult time trying to fight this. And the fact of the matter is, if you get a couple of Inteleon out and you attack a couple of times with Raichu, your opponent in a GX and V heavy deck, well, V after rotation, is really going to be on the ropes. Now, as a quick linguistic side note here, this does specifically refer to Pokemon Vs and GXs, and I've seen a bunch of people question why this doesn't just hit rule box Pokemon in the same way that Empoleon blocks abilities of non-rule box Pokemon, and Cherim lets you attach energy to non-rule box Pokemon. And I've seen a bunch of people say it's an oversight or an error. No. It's clearly not an oversight or an error. That's ridiculous. They've brought in this terminology. The cards are getting checked by multiple people before they get sent to the printers. This isn't an oversight. It's a deliberate choice. And I can't tell you exactly why it is. I'm not the card designer. But my theory is Expanded. If you look at Expanded, we've got EXs. And EXs include stuff like Jirachi. Gives up 2 prizes, has 90 HP. But because of Level Ball, sees a bunch of play. Plus, the average Pokemon V is about 220, and the average EX is 180. So a 2-turn board wipe on 180 Pokemon is so much more likely than a 2-turn board wipe on 220 Pokemon. So actually, in Expanded, I'm not saying it would break Expanded, I'm not saying Raichu would be broken and rule it or whatever, but I am saying if you look at EXs and compare them to Pokemon Vs and GXs, there is a clear reason why the card designers would specifically want to not make it apply to EXs. I'm not saying that is the reason. If it is a reason, I'm not necessarily saying that it's the best reason ever. I'm not saying they shouldn't have used the rule box terminology. But for the people out there, and I've seen a whole bunch of people already saying, it's a mistake, it's an error, there is no reason to not say rule box. There is a reason to not say rule box. Its EX isn't expanded. Now, you can argue with yourself and other people you know about whether you think that's me in the comment section, let's go for it. Whether you think that's a good reason or not. But I don't accept that there isn't a reason. There is a reason. And to be honest, it might be a different reason, but that's my theory looking at the cards. Also need to point out that if you look at the artwork here, you can see a little Sawaddle looking the other way on the other side of the rock. And we have actually had a peek at the Sawaddle from this particular set. And if you look at the Sawaddle artwork, the Sawaddle's looking out with Raichu peeking out from behind the rock. How cool is this, ladies and gentlemen? How cool is this? There's also a Rotom, so expect a Rotom to be in this set at some point. And I suppose before we finish, I should mention ever so quickly that the second attack is actually not too bad. 3 lightning energy, 180 damage, discard all energy cards from this Pokemon. And I don't think it's good, but I don't think it's terrible. To be clear, the reason to use it is the first attack. But 180 will get a KO on those support Pokemon like Crobat, like Kricketune, etc. And it's not terrible damage-wise. It'll get pretty much all single-prize Pokemon. But time we hit the rotation, accelerating lightning energy is going to be a little bit of a pain. I think it's a little bit too expensive. I have no problem using the first attack and attaching a second energy in the hope that you can attach a third and go for it. But I don't think it's a reason to play the card. I really like this card. I'm giving it 4 Wassies. I think there is a huge amount of potential here. I think if it wasn't a single energy, it might not work, but it is. If it was a stage 2 rather than a stage 1, it probably wouldn't work. But it's a stage 1. And because we've got stuff like Telescopic Sight and Inteleon, there are real reasons here to believe that this can be a very, very effective spread deck. But I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.